see, I think we're all on. Perfect. Okay, we're all ready. At this time, we're going to call the meeting of December 7th, 2020 to order. Do we have any speakers in the audience? Any comment cards?
I have no speakers in the audience and no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
City Attorney, do you want to announce anything before we go to closed session?
Yes, briefly, Mr. Mayor. If the City Council so moves, the City Council will go into closed session to discuss the item agendized for closed session discussion, which is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.9A, Woodall versus City of Hollister et al., San Benito County Superior Court Case Number CU 2000155. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there a motion from council to move a closed session?
So moved.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. We'll now move to closed session.
doing?
Go home like you did.
How are you?
How you doing?
Good.
All the restaurants are closed downtown.
Oh, of course. No. Yeah, it's off to the side. I'm sure you have a nice one, huh?
They got only the freeway.
That's nice.
The parking lot is set.
And you have to, right? You have to. Hey, Jason. Hey, buddy.
Good, how are you?
Yeah.
I just have to make the call to ABC. Probably they got recording, the rest are all recordings for, John and
Hey, Brian, is Desiree working right now? No. She's here tomorrow.
Yeah, and then I'm like, oh, what happened? Oh, so I didn't leave it open. Remember I got it in my car one time?
Hey, how are you?
Happy holidays.
We'll see.
Happy, happy holidays.
Oh, thank you, you
I don't
too.
know. Yeah,
They come quickly, don't they?
that's how I got
Yeah.
I believe it's time for that already.
got my purse, wallet, but they didn't get any financial stuff. Oh, God was shining on down on me. It was all in my back pocket. Really? Yeah, see, I carry credit card, debit card, driver's license.
Oh.
All in here, because I'm one of the kids when it comes to a purse. But I leave it in the car, and Brian told me a million times. Oh, it's a Suburban, it's gonna go without it getting in there. So they jacked up. I had some sentimental stuff in that wallet. And my brother gave me that $50 bill 50 years, I mean, that $2 bill 50 years ago. Whatever. Some little notes from Brian. The kids, little pictures.
Does that mean?
And all those 3A, the Costco card, all the ones, my Target card.
Or
Now the kids are violent. I'm done with that first thing. I never liked them. That's why I laid it in the car.
the problem too, clean pants too.
I could leave it everywhere. Way back in high school, I figured out I wasn't cut out for a purse because I leave it everywhere I went.
They have all sides now.
It's not the first one I lost.
I like how everything's so easy.
Somebody jacked my car and got my purse with the city photo.
You're inside, outside.
Really?
Really?
At Home Depot, 3 PM in the afternoon.
In Gilroy?
Yeah. Came out and I said, that's my purse. But like, you couldn't tell, it was just, they went in with a crowbar. Very little damage, but the guy.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I said, what, I only brought it, yeah, I brought it, the city photos in there. You have my,
Oh, yeah. You bet.
you're gonna need it when we're playing.
That's right.
They're already friends, but just friends.
Well, if they do it in a controlled environment somehow, so they all stay together, they'll go home. That's what they're doing, like the boys and all those other things, they're all
Why not ski?
their own hotel.
That's why I'm here.
Oh, thank you.
So, then that, yeah, that's not good.
Oh, and recology is my favorite subject.
Well, I figured you'd be a helper.
Right, yeah, that's, yeah.
I enjoyed your San Joaquin reading.
So it's funny how you know how the facts are.
That's gonna be mentioned tonight.
I don't agree with that.
What's that?
I don't agree with that.
Why
Come on,
would-
you just like watching,
Hey, if it
things about love.
counts to, when it comes to that,
Yeah.
might as
Of course,
well.
that wouldn't be good for a police. That's exact.
All right, are we all ready to go?
Yes, sir.
This time we're going to resume the meeting of December 7th, 2020. Councilmember Lenoir, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Ready and salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, roll call, please.
Mayor Velazquez,
Here.
Councilmember Lenoir,
Present.
Councilmember Resendez,
Present.
Councilmember Spencer,
Present.
City Manager Miller,
Present.
City Attorney Epperson,
Here.
Interim Police Chief Reynoso.
Here.
Thank you. The agenda for the City of Hollister City Council regular meeting of December 7th, 2020 was posted on the bulletin board on December 4th, 2020 at 4:36 PM per Government Code Section 54954.2. Thank you.
Thank you. City Attorney, will you please report out from closed session?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. The report out of closed session is that the city council discussed in closed session that item read into the record prior to going into closed session, and direction was given to staff. The city council recessed from closed session at 6:16 PM. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to the consent agenda. Are there any items council would like to pull? Do we have any requests from the public?
I have no items from the public, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda as stated.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. We're going to move to public input. This is the time for anyone in the audience to speak on any item not on the agenda and within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speaker cards are available in the lobby and are to be completed and given to the city clerk before speaking. When the city clerk calls your name, please come to the podium, state your name and city for the record, and speak to the city council. Each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes with a maximum of 30 minutes per subject. Please note that state law prohibits the city council from discussing or taking action on any item not on the agenda. Do we have any speakers?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Elia Salinas.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. I would like to remind you again, and I've been doing it since June, that the council members are to show their face so that the public acknowledges that you're paying attention to them. And both City Councilman Roland Resendez and Mayor Ignacio Velazquez, you continue to fail to do that. Although you don't have a problem, Mayor, with going out there daily and making videos. So it's not I don't understand, and neither does the public, why you continue to fail with sticking to, at least not breaking any ethics. I also would like to find out what it is or what is going to be happening now that the businesses have closed again with regards to the businesses that are defiant. Driving on the way over here today, Payne's parking lot, there's no outdoor dining. There's nobody then in the seats outside, yet the parking lot and the street parking was full. So something's going on indoors at Payne's, and it's unfortunate that people continue to not take this virus seriously. Lastly, I would like to thank a council member, Councilwoman Carol Lenoir, for having dedicated your time all these years to the city, and then this last 2 years as a council member. Greatly appreciate it, your experience, your knowledge, and your level-headedness to be up there for the last 2 years is greatly appreciated, and I want to thank you. And I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that also have reached out to you to thank you. I know today's your last day, and I'm going to miss you. The public is going to miss you, and hopefully the person that's coming in got some big shoes to fill, but they're going to follow in your steps and continue to do a good job to make sure that what you do up here is in the best interest of the city and not by any design of what it is that you feel is in the best interest of how you can please somebody else that's up on the dais. It's not about pleasing anybody up on the dais, but making sure you make the right decision for the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Elia.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much. We're going to move to item D1, City Manager's Report.
Nothing to report at this time.
D2.
Nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. We're going to move to item E1, Public Hearing.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, what you have before you in this item is the fact that recently the City of Hollister City Council adopted and implemented a plan to incorporate one-way traffic and parklets and reverse angle parking along San Benito Street. The current parking ordinance regarding diagonal parking, section 10.20.060, does not address parking vehicles in reverse. This proposed amendment will take into account vehicles parking in reverse and still require the vehicles to be parked safely within the markings. I request this amendment to our existing municipal code that would allow for our parking enforcement officers and police officers to enforce this ordinance from this time forward. Any questions?
Any questions from council?
No.
All right. This time we're going to open it for the public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
I have no speakers, Mr. Mayor.
This time we will close
Oh,
public hearing.
wait. No?
Okay. Any other questions or comments from council? Is there a motion?
I move that we read by title only, waive the full reading, and introduce ordinance number 1199. Hang on a second. Amending Hollister Municipal Code Section 10.20, stopping, standing, and parking generally.
Thank you. There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Motion carries. We're going to move to item E2.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. This item is for the increasing of the rates for Recology, and we have Kathleen Gallagher on Zoom, and so I'll have her continue.
Thanks so much. I wanted to make sure you could hear me.
Yes, we can.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. Item before you is the resolution approving the solid waste collection rates that would be effective January 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2021. Council last heard this item on October 19th, where the council approved the first amendment to the franchise agreement, which established the balancing account and deferred the rate increase 6 months from July 1st of 2020 to January 1st of 2021. As you'll recall, council, as well as the councils of San Juan and Board of Supervisors, had directed us to talk to Recology to discover methods to defer this rate increase. That was the result of what the council approved on October 19th. So the item before council this evening is to approve the resolution for the solid waste collection rates that would be effective January 1st of 2021 through June 30th of 2021. Very quickly, I wanted to let you know that and Phil Couchet, the general manager of Recology, is also on the line, and we're both happy to answer questions. I did want to let council know that the majority of Hollister residents will see a $1.40 per month or less rate increase. These rates were posted as part of the public hearing process and the Prop 218 notice that was mailed back in several months ago. As you'll also note that Recology has continued to expand the outreach to help residents and businesses that continue to get really impacted by the first wave of COVID, the second wave of COVID, and the ongoing challenges that we have. They're continuing to work with ratepayers and businesses and residents because they're continuing to ensure that they're offering the services even though many of these businesses and residents can't pay. Phil Couchet perhaps can talk a bit more about that. I'm happy to answer any questions. The staff report details the history of when we released the notice of public hearing. I'm happy to go into detail, but I'm guessing you might want to simply go to questions and answers, or if you prefer me to go through the detail, I'm happy to provide that as well.
First, let me ask, is there any questions from council?
I have none.
No?
Well, I'm still not really thrilled with this idea. People are hurting, and I know it's only $1.40, but that $1.40 adds up, especially $33, $40, $50, $60, depending on how much you're paying a month for this service. Here's a question I do have. What if somebody opts out not to use your service? Is that allowable?
No.
The franchise agreement covers the collection rates for the residents and the businesses, and it is a requirement for, it is not an open competition franchise agreement. So for residents and businesses, it is a service that is required for businesses and for residents.
So in other words, if I don't want your service, I still have to pay for it.
Residents that if they choose to, well, let me just clarify. If a resident has basically recycles everything on site or composts everything on site and basically doesn't have any, basically states that they don't generate any waste, they can request an exemption. And that is a form that can be filled out from the county's integrated waste management site under the franchise agreement.
And Kathleen, if there is a resident who can do 9% of recycling at their home, but they might have to take something to the dump, they're allowed to take it to the dump on them.
That's right.
Okay?
Yes, they are. Mm-hmm.
So it's not mandatory that
residents. I'm sorry to interrupt you. The residents can self-haul materials to the landfill. Yes. It is a requirement that businesses and residents have garbage service. And as you can probably understand why, if folks didn't have that, there could be a buildup of garbage at the site. So it is a requirement.
So no matter what, they're required to pay your rates, including every 4.5% increase every year, which if I did my math right, we will have an increase next month. And then July 1st, we'll have another 4.5% increase, right?
Partially correct. The 4.5% increase is the rate impact for what was to be July 1st of 2020 through June 30th of 2021. The rates change. The rate increase changes each year, and it's based on methodology that is in the franchise agreement.
So that anything, if it is more than, let's just go with the 4.5%, then it carries over to the next year of an increase.
So the 4.5% is for the period of January 1st of 2021 through June 30th of 2021. What happens per franchise agreement is each year Recology submits a rate application that details the consumer price index, the fuel index, the processing costs, the disposal costs, and they follow the formula that's established in the franchise agreement. So the rate impact for July 1st of 2021 is unknown at this time. Phil Couchet might want to add more to this because San Juan had brought up a question somewhat similar. And in prior years and for Recology, there has actually also been rate decreases. So the rate methodology depends on several factors that are spelled out in the methodology of the franchise agreement.
Yeah, and
Yeah, excuse me. This is Phil. Could you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, so that's a good question. It's a mathematical formula, and there have been years in the past where the rates have decreased based upon the CPI figures. These figures are published by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and they're pulled right out of a manual. So you know, we don't make those rates. We don't make the percentages up. It's a calculation.
Okay, Phil, with the CPI, which is a consumer price index, when you did our rates for Hollister, San Benito County, you did it because we were included in Santa Clara County, right?
The CPI index is a Bay Area rate. It's all Bay Area rate.
Bay Area rate.
And then we also have a fuel component in that.
Mm-hmm.
So if fuel goes down, there's a possibility that, you know, your rates could follow that. So it's a combination of both those factors.
Okay, because the reason I'm glad you brought up the consumer price index, because we are not in the Bay Area. We are considered in the San Joaquin Valley region. So wouldn't it be better to redo the formula to find out if our rates would be lower? I mean, I pay for my garbage. Of course, I pay with you. I've been in my house 10 years. My rates have never gone down. They just keep going up. But I think right now in this time, especially since we're now in another shelter in place, or however you want to describe it, I think we need to go back to the table and redo this formula, especially since, according to the governor of California, we are not in the Bay Area. We are in San Joaquin Valley region. So I think
we're simply following the formula that was published in the franchise agreement.
Well,
so if the regional agency wanted to readdress that we have to talk to Kathleen about possibly renegotiating that.
I honestly think that should be looked at, because if we're in the Bay Area, if we're considered in the Bay Area, of course, we're going to pay higher rates because it's the Bay Area. The Valley doesn't pay higher rates. And like I said, Governor Newsom has stated that we are in San Joaquin Valley region. And if it means getting lower rates for our community in San Benito County, I think that's what we need to look at. I don't see, you know, and I'm not trying to be stubborn, but I look at it this way. You get a 4.5% increase of living, which is pretty much what it boils down to. I don't think your employees get a 4.5% cost of living every year. They probably get, maybe if their contracts are done every 3 years, maybe a 2% cost of living increase. So you know, I just
wanted a point of clarification that the 4.5% is not the CPI. It is the consolidation of this index-based methodology, as well as, like Phil had talked about, the fuel index.
Yeah,
as well as the processing costs at the material recovery facility and the landfill rates.
Also for labor, non-fuel and fuel products, and disposal processing. I understand that.
Yeah.
But it is for labor, and I'm sure your employees aren't getting even a 2% cost of living every year.
They get more than that.
Oh, they do.
Yeah, all of our employees are represented by local 350 Teamsters, and we renegotiate a contract about every 5 years. And I believe the last one, they were getting a 3% increase. I would like to add, and
Is
Kathleen
it
mentioned
3%
it,
every year or 3% for the full 5 years? Over 5
Every year.
years?
every year.
year.
Yeah. So
Oh.
what I would like to mention though is Kathleen mentioned that the processing costs of the recycling is part of this adjustment also. And when we first the year before the contract, we were getting paid $15 a ton for every ton of recycling we brought to the facility. When the contract started, it was zero. It had dropped to zero, and currently we're paying $47. We pay $47 per ton for every ton of recycling we take to the processing facility. And that's not unusual. That's across the state. So it's not our facility that is charging more than others. If you've heard of the China sword, where China backed out from all of their recycling,
The plastic.
the plastic, the paper, everything, and the cardboard. The market in recycling is a market commodity, just dropped. And so part of this 4.5% is to make up for that significant drop in price of recycling. From a positive 15 to a 0 to now a negative $47 a ton.
I don't, because I just in October, I had to deal with a few tons taking to the dump. So I paid a little bit more than $49, and it wasn't that dramatic for me. And if you have, say, 62,000 people, and that's just a rough figure, and you're charging, and you're charged $49 per ton, you're making a good profit.
No, we pay $47 a ton.
I know. And the thing is, there's a lot of people. I know what I pay every month for your service. I know what I pay a year, and I'm sure that there's other people in our community that pay what I pay or even more. Not real comfortable with another raise right now. I mean, I don't know how many years you have a contract with Hollister, and I understand it'll go through, but where you're getting an increase every year, I'm sorry, I can't go with it. Sorry.
And again, there's not a guaranteed increase every year.
Well, like I said, Phil, I've had your service for however long you've been in Hollister, and every year my garbage bill has gone up. So if I'm the only person in town, that's fine, but I'm sure I'm not. I've had a lot of people complain about having to pay every year an increase in a service that, honestly, I'm going to tell you, sometimes your service is horrible. I had your drivers refuse to pick up my garbage because they didn't like the way it was put by the curb, or my garbage was dirty. Please.
Okay, we're getting off topic, so let's just specific questions, please.
If they're going to be increasing the community's rates every year, their service better be fantastic, and it's not. And I do not agree with a company that raises their every year. And that's all I have to say.
Okay, any other questions from council? All right, do we have, at this time I open it for the public hearing. Do we have any speakers?
I
No
have one
speakers?
speaker. I have one speaker, Mr. Mayor, Elias Salinas.
Good evening. I have been coming here since April protesting against the rate increase for Recology. I asked for a deferment, or better yet, I wanted a stay in price of an increase. we had Kathleen, leader of the Integrated Waste Management, as our representative. And I find it very difficult that every time Recologies has come forward, they get exactly the rate they asked for. Where's the negotiations on Kathleen's part representing the citizens of San Benito County, including Hollister and San Juan Bautista? As Councilmember Honor Spencer mentioned, the governor has stated that we are now, if it wasn't before, we are considered San Joaquin Valley Region. Negotiations, I request and I suggest, in the best interest for the citizens, the pay rate payers of this county and the cities, that they go back to the board, to the negotiations table, reconsider that they're now in San Joaquin County Valley Regional Center, and look at those numbers. They deferred the payment. We didn't get a paid increase, but they got almost $500,000 combined by the city of Hollister, San Benito County, and the city of San Juan Bautista. The ratepayer did not have to pay, the taxpayers did. It's the same thing. Prop 218 went out to the property owners. Prop 218 did not go to the attention, and it doesn't represent a ratepayer. It represents the property owner. That is not a good way to reach out to the ratepayer when you're reaching out specifically, and only legally can it be done via Prop 218, which is a property owners. We have a problem here. Recology, once I'm off the forum, here, what is the total percent from the date in 2017? What is the total percentage that your rates have increased? I have calculated it, and it's almost 32% pay rate increase since 2017. Please correct me if I'm wrong. I didn't do my homework on the way over here, and I should have done it this afternoon. Thank you.
I have no more speakers, Mr. Mayor.
No more speakers? Thank you. Do we have any other comments or questions from council?
Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead.
I'll
Councilmember
comment.
Zipley.
I like to explain where I'm coming from. I don't know that they'll
Is that a
agree.
close on the public hearing?
Oh,
Hang on a second.
Mr. Mayor?
I'm sorry, we were going to close the public hearing.
Thank you.
Councilmember Resendez was going to make a comment.
Before I make my comment, Paul, if you're there, I'm having a hard time hearing the speakers, and I think there's something you've done before that'll just really amplify the microphone. I just want to point out a couple of things that were brought up. I think it's hard for us to compare ourselves to being in the San Joaquin Valley region because that was done out of medical necessity. I think the rationale behind that was because our hospital is very small in comparison to some of those of the Bay Area hospitals. So that's why we were identified by the governor as being San Joaquin Valley region. If we look at the reality of the situation, and I think most people agree with this, our people, our residents, they work in the Bay Area, and we probably consider ourselves part of the Bay Area, not part of the San Joaquin Valley region. That means that we make Bay Area rates. Nobody wants to see the rates going up. I agree, and we talked about this, and we put it off for as long as we could. The other part of it is that Recology is a business too, and they have employees, lots of employees that get paid really well, and that are very well represented by the Teamsters, as was pointed out by Mr. Couchet. So I appreciate that, and I'm going to support that always. So we need to ensure that those people are able to feed their families as well. And lastly, I would just say it's not really appropriate to discuss renegotiating at this time. All the other points that were brought up, I understand them, and I just don't think this is the appropriate time. Those should be brought up during the times of entering into a contract, not in the middle of it that's already been approved years ago. So I think if you want to talk about that, then we should bring that up at the appropriate time. Those are my comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Lenoir?
Thank you. So I won't waste time. I agree with Councilman's comments on the San Joaquin. It was really a medical issue that brought that about. I really relate more to over here. But I just want to say that, you know, the whole garbage business has really progressed through the decades. And I've been here my whole life, and we took our own garbage to the dump, but you know, we took it to the dump. Some folks didn't do that, and that's a sure way to get overrun with rats and disease. So there was a need to get it mandatory. I remember the process, but you got to remember that we have much better we have household hazardous waste that we didn't used to have, bulky items that they come and take for free or you deliver them. You got e-waste that they don't charge you to take anymore. You know, they used to charge for this stuff. They'll pick up your batteries. So these are all enhanced services. I really think that we, in good faith, negotiated a contract. We signed on the line. This is the contract. I think that they have done some to consider the COVID, and they have reduced services for folks that requested it. I really feel I'm just not a big fan of deterring debt because this doesn't go away. We just put it off more. We put it off too long now, so you're just going to get more in the hole. So I'd like to see us move forward with this, but always try to get the best deal that we can for the next contract. And maybe I'll have even something to say at that point as a member of the public. But I think this contract is what we legally signed, and we should have good faith. Otherwise, folks maybe won't want to do business with us if we're going to renege on our contracts. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And I agree with you. This has gone on way too long. And this conversation about San Joaquin region, I have no idea why that is even being brought up. That was clearly about medical issues, health issues of hospital stays, not about CPI or some of these other areas that I think are being confused by people that don't really understand the workings of this contract that was negotiated. It's a 10-year contract. Lots of the negotiation went into making that contract happen. Do we want to see increases? Nobody wants to see increases. But how loud do we complain when they do decrease? And eventually that does happen. You know, I personally think of us more as a Central Coast region, not the Bay Area, because the Bay Area is much more expensive, but we're definitely not San Joaquin. I think we need to not try to confuse the public. It's just not fair to the public. I do want to say I think this company has done a good job. Mr. Shea, please tell your employees thank you. I've had nothing but positive experiences with them. Every once in a while, if something's missed, I give your company a call and they're back to pick it up pretty quick. So I know you guys are trying your best out there. This is a complicated business. You heard how they went from making money from recycling to having to pay now $47, $45 a ton to take that recycle and dispose of it. So this is not a business that just makes nothing but profits. It's a tough competitive business. And as Councilmember Lenoir pointed out, a deal was made, a 10-year deal, and we can't go back every single year and cry that we want a different outcome of this. That's not the way things work. Something was negotiated, it was agreed upon, the best deal we could get. And if you think about garbage and the time and effort it takes to drive yourself to the landfill and the cost to dump your own trash, you'll find out within a month or two that it's just not the best deal around. Not to mention, this company's contract offers large item pickups a couple times a year, I believe, Mr. Cachet?
That is correct.
And that itself is a big, big deal right there. So if you have a couch you're looking to get rid of or something else, call the company and they'll work that out with you. But I think it's time to move on and not keep beating this thing to death. We made an agreement. It's time to honor that agreement and go from there. With that, is there a motion?
I move that we
adopt resolution number 2020-222, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Hollister approving the maximum allowable solid waste collection rates effective January 1st, 2021 to January 30th, 2021.
Is there a second?
A second. It's June 30th.
Make a motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Against?
No.
Motion carries 3-1. We're going to
Who's-
move now
Carol, did
to
you second
item
the motion? Did you
F1.
second?
Yes.
Thank you. I'm sorry, please go ahead.
Good evening again, Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council. This item before you is a request for additional cameras at McCarthy Park. The City of Hollister has recently invested millions of dollars in grant money and general fund money for several improvements at McCarthy Park. During the planning stages of the park improvement project, security cameras were recommended, similar to the cameras that are in the downtown area in Hollister and at Dunn Park. However, the security cameras were not included in the final approval of the project. The security cameras have proven themselves very valuable in other public areas in our city. The cameras have been instrumental in solving or helping in the investigations at Dunn Park, and most recently for the downtown arson investigation. Since the reopening of the park, there have been reports by citizens of illegal activity at night consistent with criminal street gangs. The police department has also investigated strong arm robberies, where the suspects were also described as possible street gang members. And I would like to add that city personnel have also advised that when they go there in the mornings to clean up the park, that they've had to clean up the park with beer bottles and other items that are in the darker areas of the park at night. Yeah, having cameras recording at the park day and night is a valuable tool for the safety of everyone at the park and as a deterrent for those with criminal intent. The recordings can help solve cases and serve as an independent witness in cases of claims against the city as well. A bid for cameras at the park were recently received from Surveillance Grid. Surveillance Grid is a current sole source provider for the city network of cameras. The bid amount of 4 high-quality cameras with a wireless radio for connection into our existing network and batteries for backup, and the installation of those cameras was received in the amount of $28,459. The money for the project would come from the park impact account, which currently has an excess of $3 million. The annual maintenance of the cameras would be included as part of our ongoing support fees for the existing camera network system. I'm available for any questions if you like.
Is there any questions from council?
I have none.
Do we have any speaker cards on this item?
I have no speaker cards and no hands raised.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I would like to ask one question. I didn't get a chance to get in there because I was muted.
Go ahead.
Chief Reynoso,
Yes.
these cameras, I was looking at the picture in the radius. The picture I looked at did not cover 100% of the park. There was like 3 areas where there was a blind spot. The biggest blind spot would be closer to, I think it's the library at San Andreas. I think it's the library. Is there any way that these cameras can be 380-degree vision?
I'm looking at the map that you described. You're talking about the area around San Andreas School, the south side of that school?
Yeah, where the park butts up to the back of San Andreas. There's like 3 spots. One of them is the grass, which would be on Chapel Road, I think it is.
Yes.
And then one butts up right up to the back end of San Andreas. And then the other one is more towards the back end of Lucky's, the store, that area.
Yes.
But the 2 biggest ones are the one right behind San Andreas, and then the one, if you're looking from San Andreas at the park, it would be on the right-hand side, the grass by that side road, which, is that Chapel? I'm not really sure what the road is.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. This project was only looking at the park, and we could cover that, but it would mean additional cameras to be able to capture the entire block. You would need to add more cameras to the project at this point. But what we're proposing are the cameras that will best capture what is the park, not necessarily San Andreas. But if you wanted to include that, we would need to include additional cameras to capture that area.
Well, I just think it's a good idea that we have a complete visual on the whole park, even if it's backing up to San Andreas, because it's been my experience, people they know where the blind spots are, and that's where they will do their illegal activities. like I said, there's two really big ones. So if we could just kind of maybe, I know we can't do it right now, let's get what cameras we can get up there. But let's, if we could, look at getting another one to cover those 3 spots.
Yes, yeah, I can, it would mean either going, back now and adding the cameras, or approving this and we can add the cameras in the future. The system is designed that way that can easily add cameras in at a later time.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
We'll go back to, was there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-223 as stated.
There's a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you very much.
We'll move on to item F2.
Consider that. It's a good idea.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The County of San Benito, excuse me, the County of San Benito Elections Department conducted the election on November 3rd, 2020. They canvassed the returns of the election and certified the results as follows: that the whole number of ballots cast in the city of Hollister was 17,155, that the names of the persons voted for at the election for mayor of the city of Hollister, which is a full 2-year term, were as follows: Ignacio Velasquez and Sal Mora. That the names of the persons voted for at the election for member of the city council representing Council District 1, a full 4-year term, were as follows: Jose Fernandez and Rick Perez. And that the names of the persons voted for at the election for member of the city council representing City Council District 4 for a full 4-year term were as follows: Tim Burns and Julio Rodriguez. The city council, by adopting this resolution, will declare and determine that by the vote of the people, Ignacio Velasquez was elected as mayor of the city of Hollister for a full term of 2 years. Rick Perez was elected as a member of the city council representing District 1 for a full term of 4 years, and Tim Burns was elected as member of city council representing District 4 for a full term of 4 years. That's
Okay.
it. I don't know if anyone has any questions.
Any questions from council? Do we have any speaker cards?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion?
I move that we adopt resolution number 2020-224 as stated.
There's a motion, is there a second?
I'll second that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion is second, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion carries 4-0. We'll move to item G1, reports from council members regarding their committees. Councilmember Lenoir?
Just the last AMBEG meeting, as you already know, they did adopt their regional growth forecast numbers. There was some adjustment there for the county at the very last there. But I recommend people just go onto the ambeg.org site and you can review those, or maybe some local publication will print those. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Spencer?
I had one on December 3rd. It was with the Water Resource Association of San Benito County. I filled in for Miss Lenoir. Thank you. That was fun. The only thing I can report out is that we're going to have a special joint workshop on groundwater sustainability on December 9th, and it is open up to the public. So please go to their website if anybody's interested, and you can join the workshop. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Councilmember Resendez?
Nothing to report, Mr. Mayor.
I don't have any reports either. We will move to item G2, informational reports. Councilmember Lenoir?
Informational, yes, please. I have one concern on the 800 block of San Benito Street between South and Hawkins. You down graded the speed limit to 15. That's not, you're not going 15. Okay, sorry. My concern tonight is regarding the speeding occurring on the 800 block. The the city downgraded it to 15 miles per hour. They're not going 15 miles per hour. They're not even close. So maybe somebody could work on that, or at least come and monitor it. They're just going too fast. And my other concern, and it's an ongoing concern, and I'm getting really frustrated with it, is the out of control bicyclists. We all know who they are. Well, I don't know personally who they are, but we see them every day doing the wheelies down the street, backwards in the bike lane, in the center lane. The other day I saw some poor lady have to put on her brakes, stop, put on her brakes, go, put on her brakes. She was trying to get out of the way. They were all over the place. As you know, I live downtown. I see it every day. I'm really getting mad. So I'd like to know what the police department could recommend that we're going to do about this. I know they already been working on it, but it's very dangerous. Wrong way in the bike lane, wrong way going the whole way down San Benito. Total disregard. No helmets. These young boys are not wearing helmets. I don't know. I don't want to see any of them get hurt, because then I would feel like I didn't do enough to stop it. I'm really worried about these kids, because it just looks like they're going to fall down and hit their head, because they're popping wheelies all the way down the block. I would like to see some parents contacted, some bikes confiscated for a parent to come to the police station to pick them up. That's what I'd like to see. But again, it's all about protecting the youth on the bike, and also the driver that's trying to maneuver around. It's terrible. I felt really bad for that lady, and I've seen many folks having to swerve on Meridian Street, 4th Street, because they're down the center. We all know what's going on. We're going to have to work harder to curb that. And those are my concerns today, the speeding and the bicyclist. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Spencer?
I think she's frozen. I think she glitched out.
Okay, Councilmember Resendez, and we'll come back to Vice Mayor Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have a couple things to report. So I went along with the mayor and Councilmember-elect Rick Perez to volunteer at the Lights On Parade. Actually, I went 2 times. I went once as an attendee the day before, and then I went the second time to go volunteer. And it was, just want to say how great of a job, again, like I've always mentioned, the HDA is doing, and the rec center, everybody that's pulling together the resources to continue the traditions that the community loves and expects. They did a fantastic job. It was an honor to go out there and to hand out goodie bags and to say hello to everybody, of course, social distancing. And we were always also on the news. I think Santa Claus and Miss Santa flew in from the airport. It was really, really cool. So great job to everyone that volunteered and organized that. Thank you very much. And it was an honor to be a part of it. Secondly, again, the rec department, we couldn't do the Breakfast with Santa this past weekend, but they pulled it together and they did a socially distanced photo shoot with Santa Claus, which was really sweet. I took my daughter down there. We've gone every year and we didn't want to miss it. So we got to take pictures with Santa. I walked around downtown afterwards, and it was nice to see all the businesses not only decorating their windows, but their parklets too. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, somebody is asking them to do that too. So it looks really great out there. Thank you, guys. I wanted to mention, I think I mentioned this before, that I would like for us to consider an ordinance to make us a dog-friendly city and to promote ourselves as a dog-friendly city. This could be done, and I know that, you know, when I travel, I've shared with my family and friends that I look for dog-friendly cities like San Luis Obispo. We can look at them to see what types of ordinances they have to promote ourselves as that. I would really appreciate it. And then last but not least, I'd like for us to consider having an arts and culture commission, just like a planning commission, airport commission. Lots of other cities have an arts and culture commission so that we can help, you know, promote the arts in a number of different ways. So I'd like for us to look at considering those 2 ordinances. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Councilmember or Vice Mayor Spencer, you're back.
Yeah, my laptop, hold on. My laptop died. Shouldn't have been. It's been charged all day. But so where exactly are we in the agenda? Because I lost everything.
Informational report. No problem. Informational reports.
let's see, informational reports. I know that as I got back on, Councilmember Resendez said my name, so I don't know what he was talking about or why he was talking about me.
That is not,
He said you were,
Pardon me?
I wasn't mentioning your name. I'm sorry if you misheard me or,
what she may have heard was that you said she was frozen.
Frozen, probably.
Yeah, that might be.
Go ahead.
Your computer.
Actually, I do have some things. One, I would really like to have us look into term limits again. We started this 14, 15 months ago, and nothing has been brought to the council about this. I'd like to do a new ad hoc committee after the new council is sworn in. And I would really like for 2 new members to be on that ad hoc committee, and like to get some things going on that. And there's one other thing, but I'll wait until next meeting to bring that up. And that's it for me.
Okay. So I too want to thank the Downtown Association for all the work they did and all the volunteers. Mr. and Mrs. Claus for Mr. Claus for being brave enough to fly in that little plane there that brought him into the to the airport. So thank you to everyone involved. HCA, thank you for being so creative and working so hard, and thank you public for being patient and coming out and supporting our community. Kids had a good time. We all had a good time. So thank you for that. COVID, as we all know, we are on the tier again with the shutdown of restaurants, bars, hair salons, nail salons. Retail is still open, so you can still visit your favorite stores to go shopping here locally. Please be careful. Wear your face covers. We need to bring those numbers down. We've had 3 people die in the last week, so this is very serious. Our hospital is impacted at this time. I can't stress this enough. Take a little precaution as far as face covers. Social distancing can make the big difference here. Help us get through this. I do also want to talk about business we need to take care of. We have not settled this issue of one of the council members that traveled to Washington, D.C. and spent $7,000. We need to get that cleaned up and paid back to the city. So I'd like to see that put on the agenda so we can recoup those costs for that trip. And with that, city manager?
Hold on, Ignacio.
No.
Since you brought that up, it wasn't $7,000.
Whatever the amount was.
I did pay some of the money back.
Okay, well, let's get it all reconciled. So,
Well,
okay.
I'll tell you what, you get me back to work and maybe I'll pay it back. But right now I'm not working.
Well, it's not the taxpayers' responsibility to pay for your trips. City manager?
Yes, thank you. So I would like to thank the county for once again allocating us another $50,000 in CARES Act funds for our downtown, or not downtown, sorry, for our restaurants within the city limits, and also parklet owners. For winterization, we'll reimburse $1,500 to 30 of those businesses. They just need to contact Daisy at City Hall, and we'll get a form out to them. And then also, I'd like to thank Councilmember Lenoir. It's been a pleasure working underneath you and seeing you retire for a second time. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome. Thank you for your comments.
That's it, Mayor.
Thank you. City attorney?
Thank you. No statement, Mr. Mayor.
Chief?
Just one comment, Carol Lenoir, you mentioned the bicycles and the most recent OTS grant that we received. They're going to be in place this coming year. It does have a aspect of it for bicycle enforcement, so we're going to be looking at that towards that goal of enforcing more of those laws in the downtown area. It's a grant that supplements our overtime rate, so the city gets reimbursed the money of officers working specific projects for that. And other than that, I will also like to thank you for the the great partnership and the friend that you've been to the police department. You're always looking out for everyone in the city in the best interests, and it's really been a pleasure working with you.
That's because I love all you guys. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you. City Clerk?
I too wanted to say thank you, Carol. It was not only a pleasure working with you for so many years.
Again.
Your wisdom and your knowledge of the planning department is going to be missed. Thank you for your time on the council, and that leads me into the 14th and not being able to hold this at the Vets Memorial Building due to the regional stay-at-home order issued on December 3rd, 2020. So what we're thinking about doing, we're going to have it here at the council chambers, limit everybody. It will be available via Zoom, so the public will be able to watch, families will be able to watch via Zoom. We are even able to do oaths of office via Zoom, although I've already gotten a take that I will have at least the 2 new District 1 and District 4 council members here. I know, Carol, you've indicated that you will be here.
It'll just be myself.
Just you?
Myself. My
Okay.
family can Zoom if they want to see it.
Okay. And then the reason why we changed it here is if we are going to have to limit, we wanted to be able to have the Zoom capabilities, and we're set up here. We're not so set up outside over there, so it would be tougher to do it there properly than it would be to do it here where we've already got everything set. So I was hoping that have a better farewell for you, so I
I
apologize.
totally
But
understand. No problem.
I do have another little plan in the mix, but I've kind of told everybody else that it's going to be a little.
Considering what the kids have lost through the COVID, I don't really pay this any attention.
It'll be a little surprise for you, but I
Thank
will
you.
deliver it next
Yeah.
week. Yeah, thank you. That's all for me. Thank you.
That's it? All right, we're going to move to item G3.
Good evening, Mayor Velasquez, members of the City Council. Brian Swanson, Development Services Director for the City of Hollister. Wanted to give a brief update on the face mask ordinance. And before I do that, I'd like to show my gratitude and appreciation to the code enforcement employees. Since March, it's been very difficult for them to manage the different rules and ordinances that have been coming out, both state and nationwide, on the virus. And I'd like to give them appreciation for enforcing this past weekend the face mask ordinance. In collaboration with the police department, I'd like to give my thanks to Chief Reynoso and Officer Pompa. Code Enforcement Officer Martinez visited the San Benito Billiards on San Benito Street and Whiskey Creek. And at both those locations, she had 4 citations at the pool hall for no face masks being worn, and approximately 6 citations at Whiskey Creek for no face mask coverings. No food was at either location either. So one thing that I should note, and it's more of a verbal warning, is that sports, participation sports, that's also not allowed. And so we do have code enforcement staff working this weekend on Saturday, and we'll be going to the different parks in the community to make sure that organized sports are not going on in Hollister. So I just wanted to give a brief update, and I would encourage the public to make references or make complaints to the County Board of Health. So their referrals come to us. So it's always good to have a formal referral, and then that referral is a trickle down to city staff, and then we will enact on that. And so right now we've gotten about 6 different referrals from the county on different businesses in town that are not following the face mask ordinance. And so we're constantly going through educational opportunities with them, and as you can see, going to be issuing citations for individuals that do not wear the face masks. So thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from council?
I have some comments, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you for that report, Mr. Swanson.
Yeah.
I think, Carol Lenoir, you're the one that brought it up, so thank you for that. I was wondering about this, like if we were actually enforcing it. I read it in the newspaper, some problems that they were having in San Juan Bautista and some challenges that they were having as far as enforcing it. So I appreciate the email update that we just got, and then this update as well. Just before coming here, I looked at the numbers, and unfortunately, someone else passed away today. It's very scary. So much is unknown. I don't think any of us want to be in this situation. I'm a teacher. I see how hard it is on the families and on the kids, and we are all making sacrifices at this time. But we don't know, and I think it's better for us to err on the side of caution and to be safe, right? So that's why I absolutely 100% support this. I'm glad to hear that our city is taking it serious and that we're enforcing it. And people, I don't know about the other people on the dais, but this is probably one of the biggest issues I get messaged about now. And they do tell us what's going on in the businesses and stuff. So we want to support the businesses as much as we can, but we've got to do it in a responsible and in a safe manner. So I'm glad to hear that it's being taken serious by our staff and that it's being enforced. And we appreciate you guys implementing the policies that we adopted. Thank you for that.
Absolutely. Any other comments from council?
Well, they kind of got me breathing down their neck every day. I was serious about this. That's why I advocated for it. That's why I voted yes. And it's not because I want to be mean. It's because we have a health crisis. And I knew that enforcement, I wasn't blind. I knew enforcement would be maybe a big job. But still, I think that between agencies, not just the city, but the health department and the police department and maybe some sheriffs, if we all work together, we could do some enforcement. It is a law now. It's not an option. You got to wear it out in the public. And for all of you that do, I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. So if we'll go do some more education, try to get everybody with those face coverings on and move on and get it squashed. So thank you, code enforcement. I acknowledge the work that you've done, and I appreciate it. And I hope that we can continue enforcing this very critical law that we have. Thank you, Brian.
Yep.
And your
Thank you.
department.
Do we have any speaker cards on this?
I have no speaker cards and no hands raised, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll move to item G4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The City of Hollister currently has openings for all commissions. Currently, the airport is unable to meet due to not having a quorum. So staff is seeking direction from City Council on whether to return with a resolution, or actually would be to direct staff to return with resolutions to amend bylaws for all the commissions to read the same as follows: that the term of office of the members of all commissions, so it'll be their particular commission, appointed by individual council members, shall be the same as the term of the appointing council member. Any vacancy by a member appointed by a council member shall be filled by the council member whose district the member represents. This is how it currently reads. Applicants must live within city limits. No, wait, is that what we want it to read? That's what we want it to read.
Right.
Any vacancy by a member appointed by a council member shall be filled by the council member whose district the member represents. Applicants must live within city limits. Any vacancy by a member appointed at large shall be filled by the nomination of the mayor. All nominations for appointment are subject to the approval of the city council. Each commission member would serve at the pleasure of the council member who appointed them, and the commission member may be removed at any time with or without cause. If we were able to do that, it would make it consistent on all planning, airport, and park and recreation commission, and it would enable council members to appoint and not have to do it within their district, but would be able to do it citywide.
Okay, is that it?
Yep.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. Is there any questions or comments from
I have a point that I'd like clarified. The council member will still have discretion over the person that's appointed, but the city council still votes on it?
Well, I think it's done by consensus, but what it would be down, because I think it actually happened to you, Carol. You had nobody apply, and then there was one
Right.
application that was out of your jurisdiction. It was in another district. Then you had someone apply
Yes.
within your district,
Right.
and you had to appoint them.
Right.
This would then give you the ability to choose.
I would just like to say that if at all possible, try to pick somebody in your district.
Right.
And then if you can't, then of course, go outside your district. But I could go with this, and
Pickings
nothing's really changing other
are
than
really
that.
slim
There's
right
a reason
now.
we have district elections, because we wanted it to be a fair representation through the whole community. But if you're not getting the folks, and there's good folks sitting on the sidelines, then I'm for putting them in those seats. So I would go along with this.
I would, my comment on this would be, I understand if we can't find anybody, and I think Councilmember Lenoir just expressed that. I think part of the problem, though, is we've had 4 council members for the last year. That might be part of the problem we're having right now. I would probably say let's give it a little more time. Let's let the new council get on board, see if they can find people in their district, because I do think it's important to have people from your district help represent that area, because nobody knows it like those that live in the district. And if we still can't find people that are willing to join the committees, then we could go back and look at this and maybe widen it to other members of the community. But I don't think we should do it until we get a better idea what it looks like with 5 council members and see if we can make some progress.
Okay, with that
I'd like
being
to
said,
comment.
I'm okay with that, but please know that we currently do not have a quorum for the airport, and we don't have any new applications.
Right, and I think, again, once the new council is sworn in, we should aggressively look to see what we can do on this and get this thing moving again.
I have one.
Councilmember Resendez had a comment?
I do, thank you. I agree with both the previous 2 speakers. Representation is important. It is key. You have to do your due diligence and try to find somebody that lives within your district, because they're representing your district and they live there, right? It is challenging sometimes, I get it. But at this time, I agree with what the mayor is saying. Let's try to find people within our district, and then if that's not working, then let's look at revisiting this. But we've got a new council coming. I don't think right now is the right time to do it. But I do agree with what Councilwoman Lenoir said. It's very vital to try to get somebody within your district to represent their interests and their needs. So I will also agree with the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you.
One question, please.
Go ahead.
How many
Councilmember?
vacancies are on the planning commission right now? Brian? Yes. One vacancy? Okay. Thank you. Okay. Okay. 4 vacancies on the airport? Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Is there any speaker cards on this?
I have no speaker cards, Mr. Mayor, and there are no hands raised.
Thank you. So I think, again, we'll try to get the new council members seated. We can each aggressively try to find members to fill these committees in the first month. If not, then we can have that conversation to look at expanding the areas. Okay?
I agree
Thank
with
you.
that.
Thank you very much. So HIJK, there's no business. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move that we adjourn.
There's a motion, and is there a second?
I will second that, Mr. Mayor.
Motion second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Bye, Honor.